The urgency of the victory plan is now. These are points, most of which are thoroughly time-based. If we begin following this idea, this concrete victory plan right now, it may be possible to end the war no later than next year. All of us who feel the pain of war hear that names like Pokrovsk, Vovchansk, Kharkiv, Sumy, Orikhiv, Zaporizhzhia, Kherson, as well as Donetsk, Luhansk, Crimea, are not only about the fate of Ukraine, but also about the fate of other countries, the Baltic states, Finland, countries that are our neighbors, the Balkans, countries of Central Asia, Georgia, Moldova, and countries from other regions of the world that are far away from us in Ukraine, but very close to our partners. This includes Libya, Syria, and the countries of the Sahel region. The battles in which Ukrainians are fighting now, right here in Ukraine, for their independence, are deciding whether the world will plunge into more wars. Russia and its accomplices want more wars. And this is a fact. They are learning. The more time they have to learn how to spread ruins, and only ruins, the more the world will inevitably pay later, unfortunately, for the right life, for the right to peace. Right now, for our partners, helping Ukraine means ensuring that a rules-based order is maintained in the world. If Russia's war against Ukraine ends at a peace summit and on the basis of international law, it will deter other potential aggressors from starting other wars. And if Putin achieves his insane goals, geopolitical, military, ideological, and economic, it will create an overwhelming impression among other potential aggressors, particularly in the Gulf region, the Indo-Pacific, and Africa, that wars of aggression could be beneficial for them as well. This is why the fate of the coming decades is being decided by the actions of our global coalition in defense of Ukraine and international law. For us, it is entirely legitimate to turn to our partners for support in this battle. For our partners, it is completely practical to help us not only endure, but also prevail in war for our lives. In doing so, they will help themselves just as much. In the coalition of criminals alongside Putin, there is already North Korea, the Kim family, which holds more than 20 million Korean people in slavery. Our intelligence documents not only the transfer of weapons from North Korea to Russia, but also the transfer of people. These are workers for Russian factories, replacing Russian citizens killed in the war, and personnel for the Russian army. And this is already a fact. In fact, this is now the participation of a second state in the war against Ukraine on the side of Russia. Everyone sees the Iranian regime's support for Putin, as well as China's cooperation with Russia. Despite their statements, Beijing refrains from taking truly serious, effective steps to stop Putin, to stop Russia's aggression and violations of the UN Charter. And we must speak honestly, Ukrainians and all our partners, if we do not significantly strengthen ourselves now, Putin will manage to significantly strengthen himself next year, to strengthen himself to the point where diplomacy will be permanently abandoned. Russia must lose the war against Ukraine. And this is not a freeze, and it is not trading Ukraine's territory or sovereignty. We must implement the victory plan to force Russia to attend the peace summit and be willing to end the war. So, the plan consists of 5 points and 3 secret annexes. The first point is geopolitical. The second and third points, they are military. The fourth point is economic. The fifth point of the victory plan is security related. The points are scheduled over time, very specifically. The first 4 are for wartime, to bring it to an end. The fifth point is for the post-war period, to guarantee security. The first point is an invitation to NATO, right now. We are a democratic nation that has proven capable of defending the Euro-Atlantic region and our shared way of life of other democratic nations. For decades, Russia has exploited geopolitical uncertainty in Europe, specifically the fact that Ukraine is not a NATO member. And this is what tempted Russia to encroach on our security. And now the fact that Ukraine is invited to join NATO could become truly fundamental for peace. We understand that NATO membership is a matter for the future, not the present. But Putin must see that his geopolitical calculations are failing. The Russian people must feel this, that their Tsar has lost geopolitically to the world. And I want to thank all our partners who support the idea that an invitation for Ukraine to NATO, now, with membership later, strengthens not just us, but strengthens all of us. The invitation is a powerful decision that requires nothing but determination. And today the invitation symbolizes much more than just NATO. For us, determination on the NATO issue for Ukraine also means the inevitability of European integration for Ukraine and the fact that there is no alternative to democracy in Ukraine. And that is why this is the initial point of the victory plan, the first and very important, the sign of determination. This is what the invitation is, the unconditional invitation right now. This means certainty about how our partners truly see the place of all of us, Ukraine's place in the security architecture. I urge all of you to work for the determination of our partners to recognize Ukraine as an equal in Europe's security architecture. The second point is defense. This is an irreversible strengthening of Ukraine's defense against the aggressor. It is realistic to defend our positions on the battlefield while also ensuring that the war is brought back to Russia's territory, so that Russians feel what war is, and despite Russian propaganda, begin to turn their hatred against the Kremlin. We are not naive. Ukraine does not and will not believe that the majority of Russians will truly realize the depth of their state's moral decline. But they must feel the decline of the Russian army. And this will be the defeat of their war ideology. There is a clear list of weapons that can support such strength of our warriors. And thanks to the Kursk operation, we have seen that Putin does not have enough forces to hold on when we push, and we push really hard.
Тому ключем до реалізації цього другого пункту плану перемоги є успішне продовження операцій Сил оборони та безпеки України у визначених районах ворожої території, щоб не допустити буферних зон на нашій землі.
Therefore, the keys to implementing this second point of the victory plan are successful continuation of the operations of the defense and security forces of Ukraine in the defined areas of the enemy's territory in order to prevent buffer zones on our land, irreversible strengthening of the positions of the defense and security forces of Ukraine, and destruction of the Russian Federation's offensive potential in the occupied territory of Ukraine. Next is assistance from our partners in manning our reserve brigades for the armed forces of Ukraine, bringing Ukraine's air defense system to a level sufficient, really sufficient, to protect our cities and villages from Russian missiles and enemy drones, and joint defense operations with our neighbors in Europe to shoot down Russian missiles and drones within the range of the partners' air shields, as well as expanding operations involving our Ukrainian missiles and drones and investing in increasing their production in Ukraine, lifting our partners' restrictions on the use of long-range weapons on all the territory of Ukraine occupied by Russia and on the territory of Russia on enemy military infrastructure facilities, and providing Ukraine with appropriate long-range capabilities, missiles, drones, and other means of destruction, providing Ukraine with real-time satellite data and data obtained through other intelligence means.
І надання Україні відповідних далекобійних можливостей, ракет та дронів та інших засобів ураження. Надання Україні в реальному часі супутникових даних і даних, що отримуються іншими засобами розвідок. Для кожного.
On each of the sub-points of our victory plan's defense point, Ukraine provides partners with a clear justification, all the details, what exactly are our goals, how we are achieving them, and to what extent will this reduce Russia's ability to continue this war. The defense point of the plan has a secret annex, and it is accessible only to those partners who have the appropriate military assistance capabilities. The third point of the victory plan is a point called deterrence. It also has a corresponding secret annex. The United States, the leaders of the United Kingdom, France, Italy, and Germany have already received it. It will also be received by some other states, which can fill this very well known to the world concept of deterrence with content for Ukraine. The Russian leadership acts aggressively only when it is convinced that it will not receive an adequate destructive response. When Russia knows that the response will come and understands what kind of response it will be, they choose negotiations and stable coexistence even with strategic adversaries. And we know these examples. Thanks to this very point, deterring Russia from aggression is possible both in relation to Ukraine and in relation to Europe as a whole.
Україна пропонує розмістити на своїй землі комплексний, неядерний стратегічний пакет стримування, який буде достатнім для захисту України.
Ukraine offers to deploy a comprehensive non-nuclear strategic deterrence package on its territory that will be sufficient to protect Ukraine from any military threat posed by Russia, and that will limit as much as possible the variability of Russia's actions to such prospects, either join an honest diplomatic process to bring the war to a just end, or certainly lose the ability to continue an aggressive war as a result of Ukraine's use of the provided deterrence package according to Russia's defined military objectives.
З визначеними військовими цілями Росії.
In other words, the deterrence package is the fact that Russia is either going into diplomacy or going to lose its war machine. Peace through strength. It works equally well on both sides of the Atlantic. And this point can be ensured in particular by means of funding, And these details have also been passed on by means of funding within the framework of the security agreements already concluded with our partners and the defined volumes of financial support.
фінансової підтримки. Пункт 4.
Point 4. Strategic economic potential.
В Україні зосереджені природні
Ukraine is rich in natural resources, including critical metals worth trillions of US dollars.
доларів США. Це, зокрема, уран, титан,
These include uranium, titanium, lithium, graphite, and other strategic and strategically valuable resources that will strengthen either Russia and its allies or Ukraine and the democratic world in global competition.
демократичний світ. Поклади критичних ресурсів.
The deposits of critical resources in Ukraine, along with Ukraine's globally important energy and food production potential, are among the key predatory objectives of the Russian Federation in this war. And this is our opportunity for growth.
Економічного зростання
Economic growth of Ukrainians of our entire state.
нашої держави, економічного посилення
Economic strengthening of the European Union for the sake of Europe's economic and, in many ways, security autonomy.
І це можливість Сполученим Штатам та нашим
And this is an opportunity for the United States and our partners in the G7 to work with Ukraine, the ally that can provide a return on investment.
на інвестицію прибуток. Економічний пункт нашої стратегії має
The economic point of our strategy has a secret annex, which is shared only with certain partners.
партнерам. Україна пропонує Сполученим Штатам разом з визначеними партнерами
Ukraine offers the United States, together with selected partners, including the European Union, of which Ukraine will be a part, and other partners in the world who are our partners, to conclude a special agreement on joint protection of critical resources available in Ukraine, joint investment and use of the corresponding economic potential.
відповідного потім економічного потенціалу. Це також мир,
This is also peace through strength,
економічний союз.
economic strength.
Це угода, що
This is an agreement that will organically complement and strengthen the existing system of economic pressure on Russia, namely all existing sanctions against the Russian Federation, oil price restrictions, export restrictions to Russia, and other pressure measures.
російські спільники у світі повинні усвідомити,
Russia's allies in the world must realize, know, and see that this regime has no economic future.
економічного майбутнього. І п'ятий пункт.
And the fifth point,
П'ятий пункт розрахований на
the fifth point is designed for the post-war period.
час. Після цієї війни Україна
After this war, Ukraine will have one of the most experienced and largest military contingents.
І це люди, справжні люди, наші воїни, які володіють
And these are people, real people, our warriors, who will have real experience of modern warfare, successful experience of using Western weapons, and diverse experience of interaction, of course, with our partners, with NATO troops.
з нашими партнерами, з військовими НАТО. Цей український досвід
This Ukrainian experience should be used to strengthen the defense of the entire alliance and ensure security in Europe.
в Європі. Це достойна
This is a worthy mission for our heroes.
наших героїв. Ми передбачаємо у разі згоди партнерів
We envisage, if our partners agree, replacing certain military contingents of the United States Armed Forces stationed in Europe with Ukrainian
в
units.
Європі, заміщення їх українськими підрозділами. Після війни,
After the war,
після війни українці довели, що можуть бути.
Ukrainians have proven that they can be the force that Russian evil cannot overcome.
Я вдячний кожному.
And I am grateful to every partner.
Багато сигналів, які
There are
підтримують.
already many signals of support for this. They like this idea very much.
Дякую.
Thank you.
Всім, з ким ми обговорювали цю перспективу.
To everyone with whom we have discussed this perspective for the post-war period, I am grateful for your respect for Ukrainians and our ability to stand irresistibly in alliance with our partners.
Дорогі присутні,
Dear audience,
дорогі українські народи,
dear Ukrainian people,
партнери України, яким вже
Ukraine's partners, to whom this plan has already been presented, have taken it very practically.
дуже практично, уважно,
Attentively.
команди зосереджені зараз.
The teams are now focusing on the details to ensure effective support.
Команди почали.
The teams have begun their work.
Завтра я представлю
Tomorrow,
перемогу.
I will present the victory plan at a meeting of the European Council.
публічно.
publicly.
Але для мене було дуже важливо представити.
But it was very important for me to present it to all of you today.
Але я хочу бути відвертим з вами.
However, I also want to be frank with you about how the situation is being handled today in some non-public, multi-format communications with Ukraine as well.
Форматній комунікації із Україною також. Ми чуємо від партнерів.
We hear the word negotiations from some of our partners, and the word justice is much less pronounced.
Україна, я це підкреслював.
Ukraine, as I have stressed many times, is open to diplomacy, but to honest diplomacy in a strong position.
І саме тому
That is why we have the peace formula.
це гарантія.
It is a guarantee of negotiations without forcing Ukraine into injustice.
Українці
Ukrainians deserve a decent peace.
достойний мир. План перемоги.
The victory plan will pave the way for this.
План перемоги це гарантія.
The victory plan is a guarantee that the madmen in the Kremlin will lose the ability to continue the war.
Продовжувати війну. І тому план перемоги є.
That is why the victory plan is a bridge to the implementation of the formula, to the implementation of the summit, and to honest diplomacy.
Дипломатії. Але на цьому шляху Україна має
But on this path, Ukraine must be strong,
об'єднана
united,
та свідомою того, що
and conscious that Russia cannot let us go. It cannot let us go, but Russia can and must lose Ukraine.
Росія повинна Україну втратити. Росія повинна назавжди
Russia must permanently lose control over Ukraine and even the desire for such control.
Бажання такого контролю. Всі такі можливості.
All these possibilities.
І водночас це
And at the same time, it's a guarantee of peace for all of Europe.
І щоб ми досягли цього, я прошу
To achieve this, I ask all of you to work, to serve Ukraine, to work toward unity within Ukraine and unity between Ukraine and its partners.
єдність України з партнерами. Переконувати
Convince our partners.
бути тими, хто
Be the ones who work tirelessly.
Я дякую кожному,
I thank each and every one of you who works in this way for the sake of Ukraine,
хто воює за
those who fight for Ukraine.
Я дякую всім,
I thank everyone on whose shoulders Ukraine stands.
Іноді у час війни буває так.
Sometimes during war, society, there are historical examples of this, society becomes polarized.
Суспільство поляризується, але саме завдяки повазі один до одного
But it is through mutual respect and gratitude that society endures.
суспільство зберігається. Попри
Despite anything, any challenges, despite polarization,
ми не воюємо.
we are not at war with each other.
Ми воюємо.
We are at war with Russia.
Це наш ворог.
This is our enemy.
Воюємо з ними на полі бою.
We are at war with them on the battlefield, in international relations, in the economy, in the information sphere, and in people's hearts.
Вони ворог.
They are the enemy.
Всередині України
There are no enemies in Ukraine.
ми досягали
We have achieved and continue to achieve results in battles thanks to our unity.
завдяки саме нашій єдності. І тому, будь
So
ласка,
please, let's not lose our unity.
не втрачаємо єдність.
Let's work together
Разом
for the sake of
заради
Ukraine,
України,
for the sake of
заради
Ukraine's
перемоги
victory.
України. Якщо втратимо
If
єдність,
we lose unity in Ukraine, we will definitely lose unity in Europe.
втратимо єдність в Європі. Якщо втратимо
If
єдність,
we lose unity in Europe, we will definitely lose the support of the world.
підтримку світу.
Everyone is watching us.
Якщо
If we lose the support of the world, we will lose this war, as it was a century ago.
століття тому План перемоги
The victory plan, among other things, allows all of us in Ukraine to unite even more around a common goal.
навколо спільної мети. І саме тому
And that is why I'm addressing you now.
до вас. Хай наша спільна
May our collective work overall under the victory plan result in peace for Ukraine as soon as possible.
обернеться миром для України. Я
I thank all of you. I thank everyone who stands with Ukraine.
дякую, хто з Україною
I am proud of all our people.
нашими людьми.
I truly believe in Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine!